welcome back to Two Brothers Comics. I'm Nick, and today we're going to talk about my five favorite comic books I suggest you read. Now, these are going to be five of my most favorite comic books. These may not be the most iconic comic book runs out there. You may 100% disagree, but if you're looking for five great books that I thought were amazing page turners, this is going to be for you. Now, this kind of came up because we just kicked off our new comic book review channel. That's where we're going to hold all of our new comic book day review videos, all of our single issue videos, all of our series review videos. It's all going to be specifically there and nothing but comic book reviews. So if that's something you're into, check the link down in the description below and check it out because we're really excited about that, and we wanted a spot just special just for comic book reviews. Now, what I wanted to do was I do have two honorable mentions that I really do love, and I didn't classify them in the top five simply because they aren't complete yet, okay? Now, ironically, both of these come from Mad Cave Studios, and both the same writer, Mark London. Mark has done a wonderful job over there. He writes some amazing stories, and if you've seen anything going on in comic books here recently, you've heard of Nottingham. That comes from Mad Cave Studios. Battle Cats is this wonderful mix of lion cats and just this awesome adventure story. They're about to come out with volume 3 for it. And if you were into that kind of feel, check it out. It has some of the most amazing artwork. The storylines are amazing. There's 2 volumes out right now, and I truly loved it. And the only reason it's not in the top 5 is because it's not fully complete yet. So check that out. And then Honor and Curse is also another one of those stories that I love so much from Mad Cave Studios. The artwork is just beautiful. The storyline is fantastic. And they're currently in the middle of the 2nd volume of that. So check it out, and I will leave some information about that down below. Now, to kick off the official list with number 5, my 5th favorite comic book I've ever read. It's actually a kind of a series of comic books. So it's the Reckless comic book series from Ed Brubaker. It's kind of a part of his independent title. So there's Ed Brubaker's Reckless, and then he has a couple of spin-off titles that is a Reckless, story, a Reckless title with another storyline attached to that. I don't know why I loved it so much. It was such an interesting story. He releases them in a traditional graphic novel type hardcover, affordable price, and if you've ever enjoyed any of Ed Brubaker's work, you're going to absolutely love this. It's this really awesome, almost thriller type mystery solving. It's just really incredible, and I don't want to give away much about it. It gets odd at times, but man, it is such a good story. So number 5 is anything under that Reckless line by Ed Brubaker. So number 4, Mr. Miracle by Tom King. It's a 12-issue maxi series, I guess we could call it, based on Mr. Miracle and the concept, can he escape death? The artwork by Mitch Gerard is a little different, but I love it. There's something special about this story. It is a masterpiece in my mind. The only reason why it's not higher on the list is because it wasn't longer, but it didn't need to be. And as a new father, during the times when I read it, and just the emotions Tom King really pulled out in the book, fantastic, absolutely wonderful. So if you've ever been somewhat of a fan of Mr. Miracle or wanted to dive into it a little bit, you get a little bit of his origin in there. You get a really good concept of who Mr. Miracle is and what he is about. And the storyline here, can he escape death? It's a beautiful thing. So definitely go check that one out if you've not read it before. So number 3 on the list is going to be, maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but late last year, early last year, sometime around COVID, I actually dove really hard into New 52, read everything on New 52 I could find on the Infinite Frontier app. So all of the Justice League, New 52 Batman Eternal, I think came out around the same time on a weekly, and some of the other New 52 stuff. But the New 52, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Batman, what an incredible story. Now, for me, it was really great for like the first 4 volumes until it got to about Zero Year. Zero Year was okay, wasn't the greatest, but Death of the Family, Court of Owls, just all of those. What an amazing story. The Joker was just brutal. Batman was fantastic. To me, that was a near perfect Batman story. That's what I think about when I think of Batman, is that run. And that is why it's so high on the list. So if you've never read the New 52 Batman, I highly encourage you to pick up the Scott Snyder run. Or if you've kind of been looking for new Batman stories to read, maybe you haven't, I really encourage that, because it was just, from the artwork to the storyline, it was about as much of a page turner. I think I read the whole thing in probably about a week. I was addicted to that whenever I was reading it. So New 52 Batman, at least up until about 0 year, fantastic story. Number 2. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that this show just came out, except for the fact that it encouraged me to go read it. And I'm talking about Sweet Tooth. And I read all 40 issues of Sweet Tooth, plus Sweet Tooth's Return, which is a 6-issue reimagination of that storyline. Really, really neat, by the way. But all 40 issues of the original Sweet Tooth run, fantastic. Okay, when I say this was a wonderful coming-of-age tale, a wonderful adventure story, definitely super dark at times, but there were moments where you literally were just so frustrated with some of the main characters, and then you felt so bad for them, and then your heart would almost melt for Gus at some points. And the beginning was just fantastic. The way it ended was, I enjoyed the ending. The cause of everything was kind of, I would have loved a little more about the cause, but I think he kind of went into why he did it, because this is a story of many, many things. And if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, 40 issues. I literally read it in a day and a half. Technically probably less than 24 hours. Started at night, got to about issue 32, and then the next morning I picked it up and read the rest of them. What a fantastic story. I'm a huge fan of most things Jeff Lemire does, but Sweet Tooth is definitely up here for me in terms of one of his best books of all time. So at some point making this list, I made a mistake. I actually put 6 books down. So you guys aren't just getting the top 5 of my favorite reads like I put on the thumbnail. That's my mistake. You're actually getting 6. And I'm just now realizing it as I'm looking at my list. So I've royally messed up the list so far. So I think you've gotten 5, 4, 3, and 2. But technically, I still have 2 more after this. So we'll call this maybe 2.5. So Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. Definitely one of the weirdest stories I've ever read. Very, very strange. I know they technically still have a second volume, so it's come out at some point, but I felt like the first 50 issues were so complete that I felt comfortable including it. One of the best beginnings. I read all 3 deluxe editions so fast. I mean, it was insane how fast. What a wonderful, wonderful story. And if you have a child, I think you'll connect with this a lot more. And even if you don't, you're going to connect with this story somehow. And don't get me wrong, there was definitely some weirdness. Just looking at the covers, you know there's going to be some weirdness going on. But Saga is definitely one of those books I highly encourage you to read. I would not say it's for kids by any shape or forms. If you're even slightly immature, it's probably not something you're going to be comfortable reading. But it is such a great story, and I truly recommend you reading it. Just definitely get past the first few pages, because it will freak you out a little. And then the actual number 1. So, and again, I know I screwed up the numbers, so it's been 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5. But number 1, my favorite comic book read, I think at this point of all time, Invincible by Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. What a perfect story. It's a coming-of-age tale. It's an adventure. It's a superhero story. You get such strong emotion in the writing and in the artwork. You get family drama. You get so much relatability here. And the way Kirkman writes it, it's as if after each arc, the book could just end. And you would feel satisfied, but you always want more. Even to the very, very end. The very, very end, the last issue, you still wanted more. But he wrapped it up in such a good way. Had a wonderful ending to it. I've never been more pleased with the book. And I believe it was something like 152 issues, something like that. But God, what a wonderful story. And I know the Amazon series came out. I stopped watching the Amazon series I stopped watching the Amazon series after episode 3. The humor they put on top of it and a lot of the changes they made just took away from the comic book for me. And that's another topic I'm going to do is kind of, I'm struggling to really enjoy some of these comic book adaptations of these new series and things like that. But anyways, if you've enjoyed the Amazon series, like I know a lot of people have, read the comic books. The comic books are so much better. It does such a better job in my mind telling the story. And there's none of those weird changes they put in. Some of them there was no need to. Some of it was just the production team and kind of putting their humor on top of it. But Invincible, by far one of the best stories you could ever possibly read. So guys, what do you think about my top 5, technically 6 books to read, plus the honorable mentions? Again, it's my personal list, my favorite stories. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know what your favorite stories are. Have you read these? Have you not? And if you do decide to pick it up based on my recommendation, let me know. Reach out to me and say, Nick, these were really good, thanks. Or Nick, you're nuts. These were awful books. But I just thought this would be a pretty cool video to talk about some of your favorite books you've ever read. Those are my 6 favorites. So, guys, you're the best part of Two Brothers Comics. And as always, collect your way.